The Chicago Bulls have once again been featured heavily in the media as well as around the league, with different executives and scouts coming to every single game, and there's been more traction on our stars being moved as we might be moving towards a rebuild. We're going to talk about more of that in this episode of Bulls Digest. I'm your host, Joey Mercer. And just before we get into this, I just want to say that about 97% of you are not subscribed. So if you're looking for a place for daily Bulls content, look no further. We're doing this, like I said, each and every single day. I'll be here to talk to you about everything that's going on through rumors. Maybe it'll be a post game. Anything to do with the Chicago Bulls that you need to know, you can find it here on Bulls Digest. So make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the notification by hitting the bell, and you won't even have to search it up. It'll come right to you. You'll get the notification, and all you got to do is click on that to go right into the video. So the first thing I want to talk about today is that Shams came out with the breaking news on Zach LaVine. Yeah, so LaVine once again featured in the trade rumor mill. He is probably the guy with the most trade value on this team, if not definitely, and he has been featured in a ton of rumors as of late. Most recently, we talked about the Los Angeles Lakers looking to acquire him, and now Philadelphia looks like they might slide into a spot to get him as well. However, there's not much developing on that news, as it looks like they might not make a move until the deadline, and a move could be made to another team before that. The exact tweet, from Shams was, developing NBA teams are probing the availability of Bulls two-time All-Star Zach LaVine, and there is increased openness from both sides about exploring a trade, sources say. So interesting enough there that teams are really looking and seeing that the Bulls are going towards what looks to be a rebuild and really acquiring about what teams are going to have to give up in order to get a Zach LaVine, who is, like mentioned, a former two-time All-Star. The next thing that I found was in the article I read from Hoops Rumor, which kind of went off the Athletic article, said a number of executives, including many general managers, are in Chicago on Tuesday for the 2023 Champions Classic, the NCAA's annual fall showcase. Conversations about LaVine could begin there, Charania explains. So yeah, while they're in there for the NCAA showcase to watch some of the college games, they could definitely start some conversations on the side when the games are not happening to talk about a player who's already in Chicago, being Zach LaVine. There are many other players on the Bulls who could be featured in this, but that will be the player that will be the main focal point for other teams as they push to winning a championship this year and taking away from the reigning champion Denver Nuggets. Next thing I saw was LaVine is in the second season of a 5-year maximum salary deal with the Bulls. He's earning approximately $40 million in 2023 to 24 and is owed a guaranteed $89 million over the following 2 seasons. He also holds a 2026-27 player option worth just shy of $49 million. So that's definitely something that's going to deter teams from offering too much, as the contract is very large. $50 million or just shy of that is a lot of money in the NBA and a lot of money just in general. Players are obviously getting bigger contracts such as Giannis and Curry, but LaVine is not quite on the level of a player like that. He is still considered a star in the league in my opinion, and is definitely the best player on the Bulls at this current moment. However, the value there, when the contract just goes up with a player option that he's probably going to have to take in 2026 to 27, will definitely make teams shy away from it and see if they can snag him on the low end if the Bulls look to blow up right now. Next, I saw this. Besides LaVine, DeRozan could be another major trade chip for the Bulls. Trania says the franchise would ideally like to keep DeRozan beyond his current contract, which expires at the end of this season. However, there has been a gap between the two sides on both years and salary in their extension talks, and the 34-year-old would like to get a sense of the organization's direction before committing to a new deal, Trania adds. So it's important to note there as well that DeMar DeRozan is looking to get a multi-year deal. However, he was offered that deal by the Bulls before and performed while a lot of other teams didn't think he'd be able to carry on what he had done in the past, where when shooting guards / small forwards get older, besides LeBron, of course, and a few others not to mention, they tend to really decline. It doesn't happen very often that players get better. DeRozan's had some of the better years of his career these past few seasons, and it's really shocking that at this point he's doing that kind of work. He has struggled to start the season so far when it comes to efficiency, but is still putting up about 22 points a game. So he is still a 20-plus point per game scorer, and I could see where he would want to get a few more years, but you're definitely taking a gamble when you're talking about a player getting up to the age that DeRozan will be at, which is 35 next year. So you really want to almost step on eggshells while making a contract offer to him, which is why I don't think that both sides have really gotten on to a good start when it comes to that, and they're so far apart. You don't want to really make DeMar upset and offer him too little, which I think they're kind of on the edge of doing that, whereas DeRozan thinks he can play till maybe he's 40, for example, or 38 even. That's definitely something to take in account here. When DeMar DeRozan wants to, play longer than the front office sees him performing at this level, they're definitely on two different sides there, and it's going to be a conflict of interest for sure. The next thing I want to talk about is there is change to come in the organization. So, lots of rumblings around the league, around the media, talking about the Bulls really finally biting the bullet and doing a rebuild this season. It didn't seem like this was going to happen, as it seemed like even to start the year, they were probably the only front office that thought their own team, the Chicago Bulls, had a chance to do something in the playoffs. I agree that they do with Lonzo Ball, but the what-ifs there are so heavy that it is really hard to say. The first thing I saw about this is Darnell Mayberry of The Athletic, just like Shams, said, "One league source told me this week the Bulls won't have the same roster in a month. Change feels imminent in Chicago." Interesting to see that they think that the team is going to be way different in just a month. We have started the season at 4-7. However, we've looked pretty good in some games and pretty bad in others. So it's really been an up and down all season long. The game that, for example, Zach LaVine had 51 points, the rest of the team looked pretty poor. It wasn't great besides him in that game. And he also finished the game with 0 assists, which is something to look at too. Was it because people weren't knocking down shots? I think so. But you could also look at the fact that he wasn't swinging the ball properly. And that is definitely something that he should be doing a little bit more. He doesn't pass the ball enough, but he also creates a few turnovers, and he's shooting pretty poor to start the year at about 41 from the field and 30 from three. But I definitely think that all the stars on the Bulls are going to pick some things up. Their top players should definitely get things, intact, as Vooch has kind of done so far the year. He's on a really, really consistent pace. The past 3 years so far, to the day that I'm recording this video, is 17.6 points per game and about 11 rebounds. So double-double for him, but he has struggled on defensive lapses, not a great rim protector, and the three ball has been a little bit inconsistent. Other than that, Vooch has been great. The next thing that I saw was Casey Johnson, who closely watches the Bulls, of course, has Zach LaVine in his profile pic there for Twitter, says, regarding LaVine, reported over offseason that Bulls held exploratory talks on him. Their asking price has been high. The unanswerable question for now is, does that price drop in light of Bulls' struggles? But players are very aware change could be afoot if matters do not improve. So that is important to mention as well, is I just mentioned there a second ago, saying about how right now they're going to have to sell low if they're looking to do the rebuild, which is what other teams are looking for. We've seen the past couple of years that LaVine in the offseason has been featured in trade talks, like you got to move them, and they have had a high price and they haven't sold them. Is it going to bite them that they didn't take the trade offers they've had in the past, and they might have to take lower ones now? The answer is probably yes. They probably should have taken some offers that they thought were lowball at the time, as the team has not gotten anywhere with LaVine as their best player, and it might be time to move on. He is still a great scorer, but the other things that you got to look at is, are we winning games with Zach LaVine? The answer seems to be no. When DeRozan takes over, we seem to win games. When Vooch is on his game, it can help us win games, but Vooch needs somebody else to help him as well. I don't think Vooch is necessarily a losing basketball player. There's just not enough intel there and not enough knowledge that we have on it from showing that Vooch is going to be a player that's going to win you a game. But DeMar is definitely that guy. I see a lot of that in him, and I think him and Vooch could be a solid core if we were to move on from Zach LaVine. I'm sure we could still get back some value that we could remain relevant, but the questions are, who is going to be moved on the team? The team seems like it's going to change very quickly, and we're going to keep you up to date on that here at Bulls Digest, which leads me to the last point. Who will be moved? Who is it going to be? Who do I think is going to be moved from this team? I think it's safe to say, after just signing new deals, Javon Carter, as well as Torrey Craig, as well as Ayo Dosunmu, and probably even Vooch, but I'm not too sure about him. But those top three that I just mentioned for sure are not going to be moved this season at all. I think they're staying put. Patrick Williams is someone to look at. His contract expiring, and he's looking for triple digits, and he's just not worth that, in my opinion. He is definitely worth around 15 mil a year. Maybe might get to 20 mil a year. I do not think that he is worth triple digits, nor is he worth too much time where he hasn't performed that well as of so far. He shot the ball really well, but not this season. This season he struggled at that. So it's something to look at too. His trade value's definitely dropped after some teams might have looked at, oh, look, he had solid block percentage over the past couple of years. He shot the ball really well from three, from the field. His free throw percentage, although low attempts, was really good. All of those things have dropped so far this season, and his trade value has definitely gone down. I think Kobe White is another player that we need to look at now coming up, as he could definitely be traded. He hasn't performed that well and has been really inconsistent for the Bulls, but has shown some spurts of shooting the ball really well. So he could be a player that a team might offer too much for. Alex Caruso, another player, just making an all-defensive team last season. People could make calls about him. There are lots of players on this team that have some trade value, I believe, and it is hard to say what other teams are going to offer for them, but we will keep you up to date on everything that's going to happen around the Chicago Bulls organization. And it seems every day there's new news coming out about the changes that are almost imminent at this point. I'm going to catch you in the next episode. It's your host, Joey Mercer here. Make sure to like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel as you mentioned at the top. Every day we're doing Bulls videos here, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.